Assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Hameed back again with the Muslim Empowerment Institute after a long hiatus. And today I'll be providing some commentary on another conference targeted at Black American Muslims or Muslims of the African diaspora called the Black Muslim Psychology Conference. Very interesting title. I believe this is the 4th annual conference that is taking place, and the theme this year was Love and Liberation, Lessons on Sex, Intimacy, Marriage, and Family. Ain't that something? At this conference, they discuss a host of different things pertaining to marriage, courtship, and premarital counseling, divorce, co-parenting, polygyny, interracial, interethnic relationships, infidelity, healthy communication, and conflict resolution. Bet $100 a lady came up with these topics. It's all good though. And they discuss raising strong Black Muslim children, mental illness, the impact of incarceration, and intergenerational trauma. Sounds like they discuss everything that impacts us as Black folks in America, which is a good thing. Now, one issue that I have with a lot of these conferences is that they'll have a bunch of PhDs weighing in on the topics when that's not necessarily what we need. Everyone doesn't have to be a PhD to weigh in on a topic. And they'll weigh in on the topic and won't have any solutions for the problems at hand. And it just ends up being folks having a knowledge pissing contest, and the folks are just convening for the sake of entertaining each other. Meanwhile, we will have totally forgotten that Islam solves real-world problems in the midst of our knowledge-pissing exhibition. So, inshallah, at this conference, they had Black Muslims from diverse backgrounds discussing the topics when talking about Black Muslim psychology. So I just want to weigh in myself on a couple of these topics. First, pertaining to the Black Muslim family. Within our Black Muslim population, we've had high divorce rates, which means we're going to have some broken families, single mothers, and blended families and whatnot. Now, why is this? You may have Black Muslims who converted to Islam whose non-Muslim parents may have been married 30, 40, 50 years, but this is not necessarily the norm for Black Muslims in many of our inner cities. One of the defects in our thinking pertaining to marriage is that we think it's a good thing or a religious requirement to attempt to superimpose the marital paradigms from 7th century Arabia into the 21st century American reality or the West, or more specifically the Black community. And this is something that has caused Black Muslims a lot of problems, and these are those who have made sincere but unsuccessful attempts at trying to implement the Quran and Sunnah in today's society. And by no means am I saying that Islam is not for all places and all times. However, there's a cultural imperative to Islam. We have cultural norms pertaining to marriage and courtship in America and the West that have been successful. Well, at least it worked for your grandparents and some of your parents. But we need to really delve into the reasons of why we have so many divorces within our population of Black Muslims. And this is based on anecdotal evidence because many of you don't have documented Islamic marriages, so I don't have any statistical data to present. Now, first on that tip, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a moment. Why don't we get legal marriages? I don't think it's because of the potential of injustice pertaining to divorce when dealing with state-sanctioned marriages where you have to get a judge's permission to be let out of a marriage, or even if you don't want to do a legal marriage due to a polygynous situation. I don't think that's it at all. But I have a couple of theories on why a lot of Black Muslims don't like to do documented marriages. Could it be that something that's not documented on paper ain't real? And I base that on how quickly many of us hop into our marriages and then how easy it is for you to hop right back out of it. And there's no legal ramifications of getting out of it because you ain't legally in it. There are no state requirements for you to do anything in the marriage. Or so you think. Well, if a woman has a child out of wedlock or without a legal marriage, for many of you it's all the same, and the woman decides to deny the father visitation, then technically there's nothing the father can do except work to grow his oils and incense fund to secure an attorney in order to give visitation. Now, they'll grant you visitation, but you know what you have to be on afterwards? Child support, when you probably weren't paying it before. But now you want to have a relationship with your child, but you're going to have to pay like hell to do so. So this type of thing with the juvenile court system actually deters the men from participating in the lives of their children. Whether it's fair or not, we should think about this because sometimes a lady can flip out on you. So regarding what we think Islamic courtship is, what is that? What does it look like? We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا زِنَا, don't go near zina. So does that mean to marry indiscriminately? I mean, you have a few phone conversations and a few sit-downs with someone through a third party, and then you're going to have a till death do us part type of intention when you get married. Impossible. Impossible. I know what you're saying. The non-Muslim courtship of girlfriend and boyfriend ain't Islamic. So let's look at that. A man and a woman may meet each other somewhere. The woman may like the guy's swag, and the guy may be physically attracted to the woman. They date, they may sleep with each other. Then they make a commitment with each other at some point later on. Then maybe after 2 or 3 years they get married and they have this big wedding, and the rest is history. Now, we may find this problematic from the Islamic viewpoint because of the fornication that's involved, but I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, especially since our couple of phone conversations and a few sit-downs at the masjid haven't been leading to successful marriages, and it's not building healthy families. But some of you thought that the thing that don't make sense was the Islamic thing to do. Some of you really thought you was practicing the Sunnah. And I believe this is one reason why many Muslim men are choosing to marry non-Muslim women. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but they may not be comfortable with a stranger danger type of courtship. Not to mention a Muslima with a whole laundry list of standards that may be unrealistic, when Tamika and Keisha don't have all those standards, just being honest. This is something we need to think about. Let's say Tamika says, I'll work and you'll work and we'll pool our resources. But Muslima says, I'll work and you'll work, but it's not my obligation to pay any of these bills. That's all on you, and if you lose your job, I'm out of here. You see this? So we have to start living in reality. The reality of 7th century Arabia or 21st century Arabia is not the reality for black folks in America. Mind you, it's not the reality for anyone in America, and that's real. Now, on another topic, I want to talk about how a lot of Muslims are belaboring the point when discussing trauma and mental illness and complaining about the racist immigrants. For one thing, for many black Muslims, your trauma has been potentially a result of your misunderstanding and malpractice of Islam. It caused you to drop out of school. It caused you to get married to a stranger. It caused you to get married when you didn't even have a dime in your pocket. It caused you to have a ton of kids you can't afford. It caused you to sit and study all this stuff that has zero relevance in actual reality. And ultimately, it caused you to go from the back of the bus to the back of the camel. And like Kanye West said, now that was a choice. You got to come out of these whacked out understandings of the deen, man. All these understandings are causing you to fail over and over again. We see the situations where an older Muslim may have some of the kids that don't practice the deen. Now, when you talk to these kids, they talk about how mom had a different husband every year. The stepfather molested them. They were living in all these different countries in poverty while dad was seeking irrelevant Islamic knowledge, constantly being shuffled all over the place. You may have a brother marry his daughter off at 16, and by the time she's 30, she got about 8 kids from 5 different husbands, or the list goes on. So could it be that many of these children have appropriated dysfunction with your malpractice of the deen? Could it be? Especially when you grew up in an environment with non-Muslims who may not be living like this. It just reminds me of the statement of Dr. Jackson's book, Islam and the Black American Looking Towards the Third Resurrection, where he says, and I'm just paraphrasing, Sunnism, or the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, was becoming the cause, not the solution to the problem of black American dysfunctionality in America. That's something to think about. And about the racist immigrant stuff, I talked about this in another video. Why are we wasting all of our time and energy talking about racist Arabs or immigrants or whatnot? Who cares? Do you really think the racists amongst the Arabs and Indo-Pakis get together to talk about how much they don't like black folks? Of course not. While you over there complaining about them, they're building $1 million masjids and they're stacking up money because the deen didn't make none of them drop out of school and not work. That's your problem. So racism within the Muslim community should not be a problem for black folks, because immigrants ain't stopping you from doing nothing. It's not like it's institutional racism perpetrated by the white power structure. Immigrants ain't got the power to do nothing to you, so stop worrying about them. That racist stuff is their problem, not yours. And now finally I gotta talk about these rise of the black Muslim feministas. In other words, the feminists that just so happen to be black Muslim women. I'm not going to get into the argument of the patriarchal interpretations of the Quran used to justify violence against women and all that stuff. I'm going to talk just in terms of relationships and courtship and the future of Islam in black America. Of course, it's well known that black women have advanced past black men in the dunya, in education and career and so forth. Women are empowered in this society, and that includes black women and black Muslim women. I mean, you have a child out of wedlock, and you're guaranteed child support from the man. If you ain't working, you'll get state insurance. And of course, this society encourages black women to have children out of wedlock, because this society, this culture devalues black men and has influenced black women to believe that a father in the household is not an essential component of the black family. So if you're misfortunate enough to be impregnated by a deadbeat, which was your choice, black woman, some of you ain't trying to have an abortion because you say, I can do this without him. You tell your child, we don't need him. So your daughter grows up saying, I ain't getting married. Why? Because she's basing it off the situation that you created, black woman, which you refuse to take responsibility for. And look how many problems this stuff is causing. The majority of black children are being born out of wedlock every day. This is a complete disaster in our community, and the black woman shares the brunt of the blame because no one put a gun to your head and told you to have that child. The black community ain't going nowhere like this. And then you can tell a man you're on birth control and then change your mind and then come up pregnant and the man is on the hook. Or you can get pregnant and have a man all excited and happy, and then you go and get an abortion and there's nothing the man can do about it. You can make an accusation against a man with no proof, and the man's life and career is over. You can violently assault the man may call the police on you, and then they come and arrest the man. So why are you complaining so much about women's rights? We're in America, the West. You got rights, and you got plenty of them. Now, I know women have rights outside the masjid. You're attorneys, nurses, and entrepreneurs. But inside the masjid, you're treated like second-class citizens by some men that don't even have an education or a job. And then they have the audacity to say that you're some evil woman because you don't want to marry a joker, a Toby Muhammad, who ain't got no job outside of selling oils and incense. I understand that, black Muslim feminista, and that makes you angry. And that pushes you towards feminism. I get it. That is a concern. But we have to remember, black men have to worry about being pulled over by the police and being shot dead. Black men are getting life in prison for drug charges while whites are getting a slap on the wrist with probation. It's hard to be a black man these days, and this society does not encourage women to be good to men, more specifically in marriage. Because quite frankly, they don't have to. The man just can't leave, but he's still going to be taking care of the woman and the kids, and even if he moves on with another woman. Now, some of you want to be equal with men. Okay, so you want to cut the grass and do maintenance on the cars? You want to fight in the wars? That's what being equal with men is. And then the other one, if a man can have more than one wife, why can't the woman have more than one husband? Do you really want that? Really, do you want that? According to you, the woman don't have to work, and if he has more than one spouse, he has to take care of both the women and the children. So would you like to have more than one husband and both of them stay at home and you work outside the home? And you got to be 100% responsible for having the children and taking care of the children and the husbands and maintain the homes? I don't think any woman wants to do that. And here's another one. Just going back again on what I mentioned before. There's a tiny pool of black men out there, a tiny pool. And the pool of educated black men is even tinier than that. And then the pool of educated black Muslim men, hell, it may not be no more than 1,000 of you in all of America, if that. And so many of our educated black Muslims, your standards are just out of this world. Many of your standards don't even exist and are not even an option for you. So just because your standards are not reasonable, you use your high standards to justify your devaluing of men, and it justifies your feminism. I'm not going to settle, and that's fine. But you don't have to devalue men and antagonize the system of patriarchy that predates the Quran. And they're telling you you don't need a man because matriarchy has devalued men, and matriarchy says men are going to hold you back from being successful in your career. And then we can't look at the cultural practices of some Muslims and look at it as if it's a part of the deen, even if they say it is. And then some folks say Islam has held women back when the deen didn't have anything to do with it. So my message to the black Muslim feministas out there, I understand that we don't live in 7th century Arabia, in an environment where at the time the whole world was patriarchal. Times are different. Some things cannot be implemented in today's society. But we need to ask ourselves, with all of the things that are going on in this environment, will a matriarchal world make a difference? Will it actually be better? If you look at the black community, could it be that the black community is headed towards matriarchy, or is it already there? You tell me. But inshallah, I'm going to wrap this up. I pray that the Black Muslim Psychology Conference was successful and that they really got down to the underlying pathologies that's causing us to fail. I'm glad that they're bringing to light some of the social issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm saddened that many of us feel that the masjid is not a place to discuss these types of social issues, and realize no movement is going to go anywhere unless it includes men and women. Many of the things that I just discussed, I actually go in full detail in my book, From the Back of the Bus to the Back of the Camel, Analyzing the Psychology of Toby Muhammad. You can check it out and other books and other thought-provoking articles at MuslimEmpowermentInstitute.org. Please like and share and comment on this video, and check out the links in the description area. Check out my young brother Hakeem Muhammad, the soon-to-be attorney, who has a new revamped website and a new initiative called the Black Dawah Network. This young brother is doing some good work in our community. And also the founder of the Muslim Empowerment Institute and the Islam in America movement, Imam Amin Nathari, will be doing Facebook Live commentaries on the regular. Make sure you check that out as well. Also, by the permission of Allah, the Islam in America movement has been going strong now for 10 years, and as of this year. To commemorate this 10-year anniversary, inshallah, there will be a forthcoming discussion entitled The State of Islam in Black America coming soon. So be on the lookout. Until the next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.